Before we begin today's story, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another heartwarming story from the Old West. Imagine being worth only $2 in the eyes of the world. That's exactly what happened to one tall young woman in 1884, until a humble cowboy made a choice that changed both of their lives forever. What started as a simple act of kindness uncovered a forgotten family secret that had been buried for decades. This is a touching story about compassion, hope, and the incredible ways fate can bring loved ones back together. Now grab your seat, relax, and let's get started. Part 1, 400 words. Autumn, 1884. The prairie wind swept across the dusty streets of Abilene, Kansas, carrying the smell of horses, leather, and fresh hay. Ranchers, traders, and cowboys filled the annual livestock auction, hoping to buy cattle, wagons, or anything that might help them survive another harsh winter. Among them rode Jacob Turner, a quiet cowboy in his early 30s whose weathered hat and worn boots revealed years of hard work. His small ranch in Wyoming had barely survived the previous season, and after selling a few calves, he carried only $12 silver in his pocket. Jacob had planned to buy a young horse, but the prices were far beyond what he could afford. Disappointed, he wandered away from the crowded auction ring toward a quieter corner where old wagons and unwanted belongings were being sold. That was when he noticed something unusual. Standing beside a broken fence was a tall young woman dressed in a faded blue dress with patched sleeves. She stood almost 6 feet tall, taller than many of the men walking past her. Her hands were folded tightly in front of her, and her eyes remained fixed on the ground. Hanging from her neck by a thin piece of rope was a rough wooden sign that read, "Housekeeper, employment contract, $2. People walked by laughing. "Too tall for any kitchen," one rancher joked. "She'd scare the cattle," another man laughed. The young woman never answered. She simply endured every cruel remark in silence. An older man stood nearby, collecting coins from anyone who showed interest. His face was hard and impatient. Jacob stepped closer. "Who is she?" he asked quietly. "My niece, Clara Whitmore," the old man replied. "Her parents died years ago. I can't feed another mouth. Pay $2 and she'll work for you until the debt's repaid." Jacob looked at the young woman again. There was sadness in her eyes, but also quiet dignity. She didn't beg for help or ask to leave. She simply waited, as though she had accepted whatever fate decided for her. "What if I don't need a housekeeper?" Jacob asked. The old man shrugged. "Then keep walking like everyone else." Jacob reached into his pocket and slowly counted $2 silver into the man's rough hand. "I didn't pay for a servant," Jacob said firmly. "I paid to give someone a chance." For the first time that day, Clara slowly raised her eyes to meet his. She didn't smile, but tears quietly filled her eyes. Neither of them realized that this simple act of kindness would uncover a forgotten family secret and change both of their lives forever. Part 2, 400 words. The journey from Abilene back to Jacob Turner's small ranch in Wyoming took nearly 2 weeks. They traveled across endless prairies, crossed shallow rivers, and camped beneath skies filled with countless stars. Clara rarely spoke unless Jacob asked her a question, but every morning she was the first to wake. She prepared breakfast over the campfire, cared for the horses, and packed the wagon before the sun climbed above the horizon. When they finally reached the ranch, Clara worked with quiet determination. She cleaned the old cabin, mended torn curtains, planted a small vegetable garden, and even repaired broken fences alongside Jacob. Before long, the lonely ranch felt warmer than it had in years. For the first time since losing his parents as a boy, Jacob found himself looking forward to returning home each evening. One rainy afternoon, while cleaning the dusty attic, Clara discovered an old wooden chest hidden beneath worn blankets. She carried it downstairs and brushed away years of dust. "I think this belongs to your family," she said. Jacob carefully opened the chest. Inside were old letters, a faded family Bible, and a small photograph with cracked edges. The moment he looked at it, his heart nearly stopped. The picture showed his parents standing beside a smiling woman he had never seen before. With trembling hands, Jacob turned the photograph over. Written in faded ink were the words, "To our beloved sister, Margaret Whitmore. May God keep our family together forever. 1862. Clara's face turned pale. "My grandmother's name was Margaret Whitmore," she whispered. "She always spoke about a brother who disappeared while traveling west, but no one ever knew what became of him." Jacob looked from the photograph to Clara, hardly able to believe it. "My mother's maiden name was Whitmore," he said softly. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Then the truth became clear. Clara had never been a stranger. She was Jacob's cousin, the last living member of the family he thought had vanished forever. Both of them stood silently as tears filled their eyes. The lonely cowboy, who had spent years believing he had no family, had unknowingly brought home his own blood relative for just $2 silver. From that day forward, the ranch was no longer a place of loneliness. It became a home filled with laughter, shared meals, and hope. What everyone else had dismissed as a worthless bargain turned out to be the greatest blessing either of them could have imagined.